There's no evidence for God. Believing in God is irrational.
No, believing in God is rational.
Muslims and atheists both believe that they have the ability to reason. This means that we can understand logical connections and reach sound conclusions based on given information. Let me give an example. Any state that systematically kills civilians, destroys infrastructure, and blocks humanitarian aid with the intent to eliminate an ethnic group is committing genocide. Israel systematically kills Palestinian civilians, destroys their infrastructure, and blocks humanitarian aid with the intent to eliminate Palestinians. Therefore, Israel is committing genocide. We know the conclusion follows logically from the first two premises. This is clear through rational insight. Even someone who denies the conclusion, like a brain-dead Zionist who claims Israel is not committing a genocide, has to admit that the syllogism is logically valid. The logic itself can't be denied, regardless of what they think about the facts. So the question arises, how do we explain our rational faculties? Where does our ability to think logically come from? From the Islamic perspective, the answer to that question is very simple. God created us and gave us rational minds with a desire to discover the truth in order to help us in fulfilling our purpose. But from an atheist perspective, the answer isn't so simple. That's because most atheists are ontological naturalists. They believe that the material world is all that exists, and that everything is governed by natural laws. This means that nothing exists beyond nature. The physical universe is all there is, and nothing non-physical can interfere or affect physical processes. These physical processes, which are just changes that happen in the world around us, like how things move, grow, melt, or cool down, are all blind and non-rational. So going back to the main question, how do we explain our rational faculties? An atheist may say that these physical processes explain our ability to reason. But that doesn't make any sense because how can rationality come from a non-rational physical process? You can't get something out of nothing if it's not there to begin with or doesn't have the power to create it, then it can't happen. Okay, how about turning towards Darwinian evolution for help? The atheist can say, well, our brains evolved to be rational because it helped us survive. But there's a problem. Being rational, like making logically valid arguments, isn't necessary for survival. Truth and survival are not the same thing.
Actually?
Survival is about quick reactions, emotional instincts, and doing whatever helps you to stay alive and reproduce. You don't need truth. You just need beliefs that are pragmatic for survival. Let me give you an example. Imagine a forest where 90% of mushrooms are poisonous and only 10% are safe. An animal that believes all mushrooms are deadly avoids them and survives.
I don't need shrooms in my life.
An animal that knows the truth that some are safe might take the risk, eat the wrong one, and die.
I bet this one ain't poisonous. See, nothing happened.
A few moments later.
So in that case, the animal with the false belief actually survives better. So false beliefs can be useful for survival. This raises a tough question for naturalists. If evolution favors survival, not truth, then why should we trust our minds? Okay then, what if they say, look, reason is just a first principle. We don't need to explain it, we just assume it like how science does. It's true that reason is intuitive and therefore a first principle, but a worldview can't just assume something that it depends on. It has to actually make sense of it. If your whole system is built on the idea that reason is reliable, but your worldview says that reason came from blind, non-rational physical processes, then you're stuck. You're depending on something your worldview can't explain. That's called epistemic circularity. You're using reason to justify reason in a system that doesn't even support it. Now, some people try to use the God of the gaps objection by saying, well, just because science can't explain reason right now doesn't mean God did it. But that misses the point. This isn't just a gap in knowledge, it's a limit of science itself. Science uses reason. It can't step outside of reason to explain where reason comes from. Another objection an atheist might say is that rationality can simply emerge from complexity. They'll say that water is made from hydrogen and oxygen, two gases that are not wet. But when you combine them in the right way, you get a completely new property, wetness. Therefore, if physical processes are blind and non-rational, maybe combining them in the right way can produce rationality, something new just like wetness. Now, at first that sounds reasonable, but there's a problem. They're comparing physical to physical. Hydrogen and oxygen are physical things. Wetness is also a physical property. But rationality isn't physical. You can't weigh logic. You can't put truth under a microscope. A valid syllogism doesn't have mass or shape. Reason deals with abstract concepts. So saying physical stuff interacting can produce reason is a category mistake. It's mixing two different kinds of things. It's like saying, if you mix enough rocks together, maybe one day you'll get justice. It just doesn't follow. But what about computers?
Why did you redeem it?
They use reason, yet they're built entirely from physical parts. So if reason can come from a machine made of metal and code, then why can't human reason come from a brain made of cells and neurons? Well, there's two problems with this. Number one, human reason isn't just about following rules, it's about understanding. When we reason, we're having mental insights. We understand how one idea leads to another, and we understand the meaning behind it. For example, when I say 2 plus 2 equals 4, I know what that means. I understand the concept of numbers, addition, and equality, but a computer doesn't. It doesn't understand anything, it just follows syntactical rules. It doesn't know that 2 plus 2 equals 4, it's just running code that says, if you see this pattern, output that result. So while a computer might mimic reasoning on the surface, it has no mental awareness, no conscious understanding, and no grasp of truth or meaning. The second issue is that computers are programmed by rational beings. So saying that non-rational physical processes are giving rise to a rational machine is false from the get-go. The reality is that most atheists cannot explain reason. So when they say that there's no evidence for God and that believing in God is irrational, acting like they're the champions of reason, little do they know how badly they're shooting themselves in the foot. The fact that they can't explain reason is just one out of dozens of problems atheism brings to your worldview. This is why Islam defines atheism as ilhad, which literally means deviation because atheism is a deviation from what is natural and rational. So if you enjoyed this video, I highly recommend you check out Divine Reality by Hamza Zortis. This book does an excellent job deconstructing atheism and explaining why Islam is the truth. Well, I'll see you next time with another video. Until then, Assalamu alaikum.